So many people in development work as an independent consultant over many years. They build up a lot of short-term projects, hard to fit that into a concise document, and sometimes to make sense of really selling their core expertise of projects have been a little bit all over the map. What advice would you have for somebody in that situation?
Well, say for instance you have a 2-year period where all you did was work on short-term consultancies, or maybe you were out of the professional market, but you did volunteer work with a nonprofit or with a local social service agency. You might take that 2-year period and list it as a management or social service or nonprofit consultant. List that as the 2 years, and then in your bullet points you list 4 or 5 different projects that you worked on that were short-term, but in the context it looks like you spent that 2 years consulting, and these were some of your highlights.
Great. And you touched on this a little bit, but having large gaps in your employment history, be it for personal reasons or what have you, any advice on how to handle those?
Very similar manner. Think about what you've done that is extraordinary outside of your day-to-day life. In those 2 or 3 years where you've had a large gap, or that year where you've had a large gap, you probably haven't just been sitting on your hands. Think about volunteer work that you've done, think about pro bono work that you've done, and use that as, think about the skills that you used and use that to describe professional type situations you've been in during that period.
And there are many people who are looking to transition into development from the private sector, other sectors. What are the biggest differences between resumes and CVs and other sectors in development, and what advice would you have for trying to make your CV more development friendly?
Well, mostly the differences are in the language. In the private sector, in development sector, things that are important are things like program and project management, monitoring and evaluation, capacity building, project finance management, and they have specific terms. In the public sector or in the private sector, you're doing the same work, you just call it something else. So when you're looking to transition, the biggest tip I would give anybody is look through the job postings or the position descriptions for the jobs that you're interested in. Look at the language that they're using to describe all of these activities that you do in the private sector, and translate your experience into that language. And that will go a long way towards showing a potential employer that you at least know the language and you have those skills.
What are the benefits, advantages of working with someone like yourself, a professional CV writer, versus going on your own?
Well, I do it every day, and a couple people asked me today, how do I do X, Y, Z? And I told them, I'd really have to look at your entire package to figure out to answer that question. And I said, sometimes it doesn't just come to me. Sometimes I go to bed thinking, how am I going to do this? And in the middle of the night, I wake up and I say, oh yeah, that's how I'm going to express that. And then I go do it. I have a lot of experience doing it, just like you might have a lot of experience managing a project. I would come to you to manage my project. That's why you would come to a professional CV writer to manage your CV, because we've seen these problems a lot, and we've dealt with these problems, and we know the language of development, and we can really make you stand out.